For all of you who may not know, this is Val Constien. She just got back from the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. She ran in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. She got to run in the finals, and we're very proud of her. Another CU buff who represented us well, finishing 12th, and we invited her to kick off this year's Media Day. So we're going to open things up to you guys to ask her some questions. So who would like to start off?
Hey Val, just in maybe general terms, can you just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the experience? And I know you probably wish you would have finished better in the standings, but first Olympics, obviously getting to run beside Emma. Tell us just a little bit about what a thrill it was.
Yeah, great question. It was a huge honor in general to be able to represent my country because I really do love the U.S. And the whole experience was incredible. Tokyo was an amazing city. They did a great job keeping everyone safe. And that was my first international track race ever and my first world champion race. So there was a lot of pressure to do well, and I really hope that next time I have an opportunity to toe the line in a Team USA jersey, that I'll be able to handle the pressure better.
I'm Joe Rico from Mile High Sports, and first of all, congratulations on representing the U.S. And 12th is nothing to be, it's a lot to be proud of, even in that right. Talk about your most memorable experience outside of the actual race, some of the people you met. Give us some TMZ stuff or whatever as far as some of the experiences you had outside of the actual race.
Yeah, great question. So the Olympic Village was really quite beautiful. The apartment buildings that we were staying in were amazing. And my roommate was Heather McLean. She was the third place finisher at the trials for the 1500. And she's about my age, and we graduated both in 2019. And so it was really fun to have someone who was my age and a very similar experience to kind of hang out with every day. And we've become pretty close friends, and so I really can't wait to have the opportunity to run into her again at meets, and I might even try and make my way over to Boston to spend some time with her.
Hey Val, I've heard some Olympians say something to the effect that after you're done competing in the Olympics, it can be difficult, just kind of winding down, if you will. When you spend so much time competing for an event that lasts a couple minutes and then it's over, there can be some difficulties, some emotions, some feelings in the aftermath. And I'm just curious what your post-Olympic experience has been so far. How are you feeling, and what emotions or feelings did you deal with when you were done competing?
Yeah, great question. So for me, the hardest part was not running close to my personal best in the final because I really was hoping to run close to 9:20 in the final, and that didn't happen. And so for me, probably the first maybe 8 hours after my event, I was pretty sad. But then after that, I just tried to make the most of it and just be really, really happy about it. And so for me, luckily, I have a pretty good support system here in Boulder, and at the Olympics, they had a lot of really good support systems too. So for me, I haven't really been that sad. But I know that a lot of my competitors are probably a lot more disappointed than I am. So luckily, there's resources out there. USATF makes sure that we know of them. And so I hope that my competitors have healthy ways of coping with
One thing I
post-race.
do want to point out for you, Val, or about Val, is that Val is not your typical Olympian. Val also works a 40-hour-a-week job in addition to all of her training, which is extremely rare for somebody to make an Olympic team on the track. And so I would like to ask Val about her training and working a full-time job, because that is an absolutely outstanding feat, because I think we all know working a full-time job is a lot of work, but then when you think about how much extra work she had to put in to do that and make an Olympic team, that is just outstanding.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, it's not easy to train and work 8 hours a day. Luckily, the company that I work for is very supportive. So I work about 7 days a week usually, and I work half days, 4 days of those week, and then full days the other 3 days to try and be able to get in my 40 hours, but still have quality training sessions. But sometimes it's really tough. I'll get up at 5:50, start running by 6:50, finish in time to start work at 9, and then at 5, when I clock out, go for another run and lift. So sometimes it's a big 12 to 13-hour day of activities, but it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for thinking and overthinking, and so it really makes, the track and training my happy place, which is really.
Val, anybody that competes at an elite level like you do, I mean, obviously, you're a self-motivated human being, but I wonder, is this experience, what you did and were not able to do at the Olympics, kind of motivated you and will drive you for another appearance here in a few years?
Yeah, I fully intend to train as hard as I can for the next, because World Championships is actually in 2022 in Eugene, Oregon, and so there's going to be a very similar kind of U.S. trials and then world race. So I would really like to be able to turn it around and shoot for another team here in the next year, and then obviously Paris 2024 is really exciting to think about as well. And I think as long as I keep training, I have a really good shot, because in college I was injured a lot, so I've really only been able to do this off of like a year and a half of uninterrupted injury-free training. And so if I can stack a couple more years of uninterrupted training, I think I could be pretty good, which is exciting.
So CU had 6 Olympians this year. I guess, what is it about Boulder and Colorado in general that kind of makes it a breeding ground for Olympic athletes?
Great question. Well, I think for starters, Boulder is a very supportive community in general. So people who do have Olympic aspirations are encouraged to chase that. It's also sunny here a lot, which is great. It's a lot easier to get motivated to go training if it's sunny out than if it was rainy or cloudy. The winters really aren't that bad in comparison to maybe like Vermont or Seattle. And so, and we're at altitude too. So I think that's an advantage as well.
Follow-up question to that one. Your sister Liz is an up-and-coming star on this team. Can you kind of speak to her performance lately and like how she's kind of just skyrocketed here?
Yeah, definitely. My sister has done an amazing job. She came in as a freshman and she was by no means a top recruit. And so for her to be able to just have the consistency and the dedication to keep showing up, she's shown incredible improvement in the last year alone. And I think that this team as a whole has an opportunity to chase that national championship title. And I think that my sister is going to be one of the leaders on that team. And I think if she trains really hard, she could be an All-American in cross country as well. So I'm so proud of her.
Val, you had the opportunity to compete alongside Emma, obviously, well, one of the greats in Colorado and U.S. history, and then she has the misfortune in the race. Now you're dealing with yourself afterward, but did you have a chance to interact with her a little bit and support her a little bit?
Yeah, so after my race, we both got out of the stadium relatively quickly because we were both disappointed and we didn't really want to talk about that right away. So when we were both outside of the stadium cooling down on the track, I had an opportunity to just talk to her briefly, and I could tell she was disappointed, but she made a large effort to congratulate me on my whole season and my final in general. So I think that that speaks really highly of Emma, even though she might have been very disappointed in herself. She was able to put that away and just be really happy for me in my season. And so Emma's a superstar, stand-up gal, and so I'm really happy to have been able to kind of follow in her footsteps and cross paths with her this year.
Henry Chisholm, DNVR. I think it's something like half of all of the women's Olympic competitors from the United States in steeplechase have come from CU. Why do you think that is?
I think Mark and Heather are the best steeplechase coaches in the world. And I know that's kind of a bold statement, but I mean, with numbers like that, it would be pretty hard to argue. And I think that Boulder in general is a great place to train. And so when you combine the best coaches in the world and one of the best places to train, you're just bound to get a lot of success.
Do we have any more questions? One back
Yeah,
there?
I just want to say congratulations and just wanted to know your thoughts on representing the country at such a young age.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of people that were my age that were on the women's distance team, because Elise Cranny and I are the same age, as well as myself and Heather McLean. And I think Carissa Schweitzer might actually be the same age as us as well. And so there was a lot of us young women representing the distance team, and I think that everyone on Team USA just had so much class, even the super young women, like Athing Mu and a lot of the other women who were pretty young. And so I think that because the team was just so solid in general, no one was immature and everyone just went there with a job to do. And so Team USA is going to have a lot of really great women for the next 5 to 10 years, which is exciting.